Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hammer Podcast. Today is March 28th, 2021, and I'm speaking with Shelva. Shelva was employed at the Masters Ranch in Missouri. Her son also attended Masters Ranch. And she was also a part of a group of people who testified in Missouri about the troubled teen homes. She's going to tell us all about it in this podcast. All right, so if you'd like to support the podcast, please subscribe to the channel. Okay, let's get to her story. All right, so you said that you went to, we're recording now, okay? So you said you went to,
Yes, sir.
You worked at the Masters Ranch for 7 days.
Right. I went 7 days.
Go ahead.
But prior to that,
Go ahead.
But prior to that, the reason how I ended up becoming an employee there, I sent my son to that school in 2017. I sent my son to Masters Ranch. That's how I got to know it. And after some time, still keeping in contact with the Bosleys, at that time I was offered to come out and work, and that was like in March of 2019, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
But, prior to that, my son was there a whole year. So,
did they ask you? Did they ask you for any like qualifications? I mean, what kind of education do you have as far as dealing with kids and?
Right, he knew my background. I submitted a resume, but I don't even really think that was even important. I think their turnovers are so frequent, and they really needed someone there. He knew my background. He knew I worked for the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, that I'm a licensed chemical dependency counselor and intern. And so he knew that I had experience with dealing with behavioral issues. I've worked with at-risk youth long before I was probably an at-risk youth at the time, working with at-risk youth. So when I went there, basically was there to write a movie. He had a Duck Dynasty, one of his children there. His child was there. So the thing was, you could write plays, get the kids involved with their behaviors by writing plays and doing different types of interventions. And so I was all gung-ho for that. My son and I were supposed to both go back together, but at the last minute, my son was like, "No, I'm not going, but you need to go." So I ended up going there alone. And he tried to make it seem like I missed my son so much. That's the reason why I decided to leave. But what I saw was why I left, not because I missed my son.
Right.
So
right. Well, they're going to make up some kind of excuse,
exactly
to make themselves
and
look
it's
good.
so hurtful, Jason, because it's like, yes, exactly. And it's like, okay, well, you got one school already closed down, so you're saying that these people just made this up in Washington? And so the same thing is happening to you here in Missouri, so that's fictitious, and it's my fault. What he wrote in the paper was that the kids that got injured were on my watch. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, why would you leave somebody that's only been there less than 7 days in charge of kids when I don't even know the program? So it's like how I got the program is by watching kids put other kids in restraints. I'm like, why are y'all doing that? And they're like, well, he's not following a direct order. Well, who's giving a direct order? Because I didn't give a direct order, and I'm the only adult standing here. So
Right.
I learned by trial and error and watching things unfold by the minute.
Okay.
So
were they slamming kids? Were they slamming kids on the ground, restraining them?
They weren't slamming them, but they put them down there, and one kid is holding their arm down on each side, the other one's holding the leg, and then you got one of them might be on his back or trying to brace his head. But what I saw was kids applying pressure to these kids, and the kids are telling them, I can't breathe, and flies are biting me, and they're like, you're going to stay down for your 15 minutes. And, I got a letter that my son wrote to me, um, and explaining to me what they did to him in, as far as restraints. But I looked at it as if he was just misbehaving and acting out, because David was telling me that, kids try to manipulate their parents, that it's so bad here. But yet, I got a chance to go there and see it for myself. Yes, it is
Right.
that bad.
Well, usually,
Um,
usually,
watching.
go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I'm
Oh,
listening.
I say usually whenever they're putting somebody on the ground or restraining them, usually it's for, let's say, the student is trying to hurt themselves. That would be the only time you would ever restrain somebody like that. If they're posing a danger to
Right,
themselves,
or try to hurt somebody else.
right. But if they're just
Exactly.
acting
And
up
if
or
the kid, if they,
yeah,
yeah, stuff like that, and then they'll have them carrying like bags of rice or flour, running back and forth to a tree, and a child is giving these orders, not a supervising adult. A child is, okay, I'm the purple shirt or whatever the orange shirt is, burgundy shirt, and you
no,
got to run 10 laps with this big bag of rice, and keep doing it until and these kids are running in the yard with no shoes on, um, no shirt. It's just this homeless like type stuff, And what I noticed was that they would call themselves sweeping the yard, and so I'm like, well, what is that? Oh, it's where we go around and we pick up all the trash and all this, and so I'm helping them sweep the yard, and I'm looking down, and a pitchfork is embedded in the grass. And the kids are just running around like, how long is this? Evidently, this pitchfork has been laying here over months for grass to grow over it.
uh huh,
And you kids are running outside with no shoes. It's just, I had never seen anything like this. It was like kids behaving as misfits, but yet this is just the behavior that they have because there's nobody really doing anything. If you're not a favorite, you don't get to leave and ride on the back of the truck to go places and do different jobs. You get to stay home and cut grass and power wash the house, pretend you're taking care of animals, and it's a kid milking goats in the mop bucket, and then they're drinking the milk without even the milk being pasteurized properly.
uh huh.
And you guys are allowed to drink this, and it's in a mop bucket
Oh,
full of dirt. I got pictures of that too.
yeah,
And it's like, how can David sit there and say those terrible things when I have proof of everything that I say? Everything. I switched phones from an iPhone to a Android, and I lost a lot of stuff, so I thought. But I ended up going back into the cloud, and I pulled up every single email, every text message that we made from March until the time that I left there
wow.
in June. hmm
What's
And
really what's
he
really
was.
Shameful? What's really shameful, Shelva,
Go ahead.
is the fact that they're doing this under the guise of religion. That's what's shameful about it.
Yes, that's what's so hard about it for me, and that's why I don't really like doing religion on anything, because you can't just people are hiding behind the word of God for their own personal gain. Um, I look at David as a sheep in wolf's clothing, but I just see him as a wolf. You just you're using this program so that you can fatten your pockets, take your kids to Disneyland, you and your wife parade up and down the airports to travel back and forth to Washington. For 2 weeks he was almost a month. He was gone before I went. When I went to Masters Ranch, he was actually gone. They were in Disneyland, but he was like, "Don't tell anybody that we're at Disneyland with the grandkids."
Oh man.
Oh, and so you got kids being run by um, two or three people that are friends with you that you've hired. It's ridiculous.
Right.
Just ridiculous. Everything is his this, my RV, my peacocks, my, donkeys, my this, my four-wheeler. What you advertise is definitely not what's there. There are no horses over there. We got one horse that looks like he's Liberty. Is the horse's name look like Liberty? Is about to need to be headed off to the glue factory. You know, it's just like my son was like, Mom, they don't have any horses. They don't have this. They don't have that. And it's not a working ranch. Yes, you did work those kids, and you worked them like Hebrew slaves. And then give them a treat, a popsicle. Let's go down, take the credit card, go down to the neighborhood store, buy them a box of popsicles, and that's a treat.
Yeah.
Like, this is crazy, and parents are paying. I know I did. I paid $40-some thousand for this. I thank them for keeping my son alive. But let me tell you something. My son hurt his foot. He sprained his ankle playing football, and I took him to the ER. And when the doctor, was examining his foot, he said, "What happened to your foot right here?" So I looked at my son's foot. Oh, I cut it. He said, "Did you get stitches?" No, sir. I said, "Well, where did this happen?" Oh, at Master's Ranch. And so I'm sitting there thinking, so David was like, kids get hurt all the time. Your kid got hurt, and I'm like, and you didn't tell me anything about it either. My son had a big old gash from the keloid that's on his foot from something that happened to him at the ranch. Nobody told me anything about. During the time that I was there, that Wednesday, I was told to sit at the table and help the boys write good letters to their parents. So I was like, what do you mean, good parents? And of course, this stuff is going over my head. You know what I mean? Until I go and I lay down, I'm like, and I'm making my notes for the day. And so when I went in to give medicine, now why would you hire an employee that has been there less than 7 days, less than 30 days to administer medicines to children that she has I have no clue about what's going on, what this kid needs. There's no log. And see, with them hiding behind religion, then there's only a certain amount of rules they have to follow. But here in the state of Texas, no, you got CPS kids with regular kids, then you have to abide by the rules. They get away with that.
Mm-hmm.
And just hiding behind religion. And I'm like, why would you? So while I'm in there giving the medicines to the kid, I see a bunch of letters that were supposed to go out for Father's Day. They didn't go out because they didn't say nice things about the ranch. A lot of the letters for months had been sitting on that desk.
Sounds a lot like
they
Agape.
read their mail.
Yeah.
They read their mail, and then one time my son, he this was while he was there in 2017. He called me. This was like in June or July. He told me, "Mom, a kid got molested," and I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah," and Pastor. What did they? So he told me the little details about it. Then the very next day, my son called me back and told me, Pastor told me to call you to tell you that everything has been taken care of. Because I called and I was like, what is going on? So the pastor had my son call to tell me that everything was taken care of, that they moved the boys by age. The younger boys are going to the KK ranch, and the bigger boys are going to stay at the BB ranch, or however they separated them, to make me feel that my son was safe. But see, I remember when I talked to Teresa and I asked her about stuff like that, and come to find out, what she told me was, your son's pretty big boy, and if something like that happens, it's because he wants it to happen. But come to find out, my son told me the other day, when I got back from Missouri, that the person that sexually molested the younger boy was a worker.
Mm.
And then my son says they made him get in trouble for that, and that's not how it all happened. Oh yeah, and so he's telling me piece by piece. I'm just talking a little bit low because he's in the other room and he gets furious with me. But he really wants me to handle Master's Ranch. He just doesn't want to be involved with it. He feels like they didn't hurt him, so he's not bothered by that. But they did, like I explained to him, they have and they did and they do hurt people, and hurt people will continue to keep hurting people if somebody doesn't stop them. These people need to be shut down. If not shut down, Jason, it's like when I went there, it was to help them rewrite their policies and procedures on how things are supposed to be done. And he
Right.
wanted me to just go along with it until he's able to get his brother that he hired out of the way. But I'm like, I am not, this is not how I was trained. What you're doing is inhumane. Kids sleeping on pissy uh, mattresses are not allowed to have sheets that their parents are paying for because they wet the bed, so they're sleeping on plastic, and their skin is all ate up like they've been bitten by bed bugs or ticks or whatever it was.
Not sanitary at
It's,
all.
the kids. No. And
No.
then when I try to say, well, I need to go and help the boys. If I'm going to be the house mom here, I need to help them. So I helped each one of the boys fix their bed, get their belongings together to show them how it's supposed to be done. How are you going to modify a child's life when you're not even being an example or giving them an example? You just tell them go clean up your room. They don't know nothing.
Right.
I said that my son was there in 2017, and kids were wearing his clothes, sleeping on his pillow, using his things. And so, where are these kids' clothes? Well, you're allowing 13-year-old kids that have probably never washed a day in their life to be in charge of clothes in the middle of the night. Why aren't they sleeping? Why are the kids watching kids at night? It
Yeah.
makes no sense to me, Jason.
Yeah.
So what's to say that the child that you got watching the boy sleep is not the one molesting the kids?
That could be very well true. I mean,
Still adults doing that.
I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
that molestation was not the only one. I'm sure there have been many more over the
Mm-mm,
years.
mm-mm. My son said he saw another kid put a screwdriver to another child's neck,
Yeah.
and they had to talk him down from stabbing the other boy. The kids
Yeah.
got cigarettes, everything that they want, everything that they want.
Hmm.
The food that they eat is nice food. Miss Brenda is nice, but all they ever ate was lasagna, casseroles, and one day I decided I'm going to cook gumbo for them, and they were like, "Oh my God, this is some good food, Miss Shelva. Oh my gosh!" And so it's like, Matthew got really jealous because the kids were gravitating. Man, I was cutting kids' hair. The kids weren't getting haircuts, but then when I went back and I looked at pictures, and me and one of the other parents, I said, "This is all doctored," and that's what makes me so mad. The pictures are all doctored, but if you look into those kids' eyes, you see pain. You look in those kids' eyes, and they're saying, "Get me out of here,
Yeah.
please, somebody help me." I went down there with my best girlfriend, and she was in the back seat of the car. I said, "You getting out?" She said, "Ooh, why are these kids all over the car like this?" I said, "I don't know. They just happy to see my son getting ready to leave." She said, "Girl, something wrong over here." She said, "Those kids look like they're saying, 'Please take me with you.'" And they did. And now when I went there to work,
Hmm.
that's what they look like.
Yeah. You
And then David went back and told the kids, huh?
you could see it in their faces. You know.
You can see it in their
Yeah.
faces, the pain. Nobody believes them. They feel like what caused my parents so many problems, so I deserve this. But then, Jason, I thought I was, and this is nothing against at-risk youth, but I actually thought I was sending my child to a place where other kids came from homes, such as mine, because I'm like, okay, so how does, these people to pay out $3,000 a month, you got to have some money, okay? So that's college tuition right there. And
Oh
so
yeah.
I'm thinking every other parent is paying $42,000 a year. No, they have our children mixed in with children from the CPS system, juvenile delinquents that's already involved with juvenile delinquency. They're mixing our kids up, teaching our kids even more far worse things than what they were getting at home. You
Yeah.
know, because these kids had never seen. Some kids didn't even know their mom. So I told David, I said, these kids are questioning why your brother's in the bedroom with his girlfriend. And so he's like, well, which one asked? I said, Chris is the one asked about that. He said, oh, Chris is you got to know his story. I said, I know Chris's story because each one of those kids that I worked with, I got I kept notes on each one of the kids. of everything, because I was not going to get caught up into some mess by he say she say stuff. He's like, well, Chris is just a troublemaker. He don't even know he's far more advanced than other boys and this, that, and another. But still, your brother, this is a Christian organization, and your brother is in the room with his girlfriend. When I wake up in the morning, she's there. When I go to bed, she's there. Oh, she's not staying there. She's staying in my RV. His RV for him and his wife to travel across the world, not to take the kids to Disneyland, but to take his family. Let me tell you, Jason, there's another grandmother that didn't want me to use her name or anything like that.
Okay.
But they had a RV that they bought, and they left it over there on the ranch so that when they came in from Washington, they would stay in that RV. Okay, but David found out that me and the lady were friends, and he shut down all the power and stuff that was inside of the RV, and the RV was brand new. And the lady said when she went back to get it, they had vandalized the inside of her RV, and the freezer, the refrigerator was maggots and flies all inside. She said a brand new RV, and they did that because of me.
Wow.
When I left there, I swear to you, I left there with fear of my life because David had a room that had guns. He'd stand on the pulpit with a gun, a 9 millimeter with a light on it. And, it's an open carry state. Anybody can have, so I'm like, man, I need to get out of here because my family probably won't never see me again. And I'm telling you, David had people like on my Facebook page, trolling my account and saying things. But I'm like, it's going to come a time when people are going to know the truth, and you're going to be shut down, and you're going to be held accountable for the things that you've done. You may have not been the worst of them all, but you are part of it. You
De-
have destroyed some children's lives.
he's definitely in the top
So
10.
that's, I think so. He's in the top 10, yes. And I'm telling you, when I have a team of my friends, they got together, they're like, Shelva, I found, that's the thing that helped me to say, I found a whistleblowers page through heal.org. And it made me so sick. It's like when I have to, like, say, for instance, dealing with, trying to get logged on with you, when it comes down to David, it's like, oh, my God, he makes the man, the thought of him and the lie and type of man that he is. I've never seen anybody like that before in my life. And I've met some terrible people and some terrible preachers, but I'm like, this man, he seems like he's unstoppable, but he has to be. I have to find a way to stop him.
Well,
Um,
well, you have to thank.
Not saying that he's the worst person.
Uh huh. You have to thank one person for
I'm
you have
not
to
saying
yeah you have to thank one person for that. Lester Roloff. He
who.
started Lester Roloff. He started the whole thing.
Hmm.
Yep.
Mm.
Yep. I don't know if you know who he
It's
is.
crazy. It's crazy. Barbara told me a little bit about the history because after they invited me to their room, and I mean to tell you, I found some friends for the rest of my life, and she shared the history of how these schools started.
Yep.
Which I said in my testimony, there is nothing that my son could have done that could have warranted me sending him there. This is the worst mistake of my life. Playing tampering with my child's innocence.
Well,
The worst
Shelva,
mistake. And I tell
Shelva,
people, now. Hmm.
it's not your fault. I mean, parents make mistakes. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
it's not something to.
It's like I just try to get over that because it's like if I could just redo that day, where could I have been with my son's life? His education, he's so far behind in school. Um, when he got back the whole year that he was there, he was supposed to be going to school, and he got back to public school here in Texas.
Uh huh.
He had 6 credits for the maybe 6, and it just
Wow.
messed up his football. And David, oh, I'm gonna come see you play, and this, that, and another. And then the last minute, oh, I'm sorry, I can't make it because so and so died, and I had a person commit suicide. I wonder these kids that committed suicide, why? Why did
Yeah.
they commit suicide?
Yeah, it's a good question.
It's not gonna stop, Jason. It's not really gonna stop, Jason, because who knows? They may have killed somebody and said they ran away. They have one kid that's there right now for murder that came out of Master's Ranch.
Is Masters Ranch still
What
open?
does that say about him? Yeah, yeah. They're flourishing. They got a girls' school too, right there in Missouri. Just opened them up a beautiful, beautiful girls' facility. I was supposed to be part of that. But, he said that you think, Jason, I would have sold everything that I have, left my son behind for malarkey? I went there to go to work so I could help my son graduate high school and then help my oldest son, pay college, his, what do you call it, student loans. That's the reason why I went to work there. I went there with hopes and dreams and, of finally writing something and creating a movie for the first, that's been my dream. And you think I would have done all of that just to come back in 7 days and then turn around and be homeless for 6 months?
Oh
It makes no
man.
sense.
Yeah.
And then he the thing with him was whatever it takes for me to get you back on your feet. If it doesn't work out, then I'm going to do whatever I can. I got $2,000. I have to pay for storage for a whole almost a whole year. Um, Life just totally ruined. I would have never went down there, but I could not stay there. After I accused David's brother of negligence, that's when David was like, you gotta go. I have all the text messages. I have everything, everything. And I'm like, okay, so you didn't write this. See, they thought they ended the thread on Messenger, but it's still there. So I was able to go back and get it out of the cloud, and I got it printed. It's almost 400 pages of
Whoa.
every text message of him telling other people, don't ride boys in the front of the truck with you. Ride with them in the back of the truck because you don't want to be accused of doing anything to a child. So make them ride in the back of the truck. Don't go nowhere with just one kid. Just, yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. That's.
Yeah,
Oh man.
so I don't know. Then
Oh,
that one person that he had, Max, one kid that went through went through the schools from Russia, I think. That's the kid that's the young man that molested the girls over in the Washington school. You heard about that
yeah.
one, right?
No, I didn't. I did not.
Huh?
No, I
Yeah.
didn't.
Mhm. Yeah. He
Oh,
he got himself in a bunch of trouble behind that. I've spoken with attorneys and trying to see what I can do as far as breach of contract. Basically, I'm okay with my life, but I'm not okay with the fact that I gave you $42,000 of my son's trust fund money and nothing that you said that you were offering on your website you gave to him, other than the fact that you took my money every month
well, that
and
that's
sent
that's
him
one
back
thing.
home.
That's one thing that they're really good at. Is taking your money.
Hmm. Yep. Yep. I
So,
have one parent get in touch with me. She's from Houston too. I told her, I said, if they allow you to get your son for Christmas, bring him home and don't bring him back. And she didn't do it. Sure did. And I
yep.
wish I would have done the same thing for my son.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I would have done the same thing for him.
You were talking
So
about
now it's like fight.
you were talking about the CPS kids that were also going to Masters Ranch. You know,
Hmm.
you have no idea what what they had as far as charges, why they were in CPS. Maybe they could have been a sex offender. Maybe they could have been a gang member or
Exactly.
something like that.
Exactly. But and they don't let you know that these kids, they have troubled kids in that from the juvenile detention center. They don't let you know that. You think like I did. I was thinking that these were, hardworking families, and they were. Some of them were because I know a few of them. And
Right.
that I talked to, that kids, sons are just lost. And I have a lady that they lost their house behind sending their kid to Master's Ranch. Now their child don't even speak to them anymore. Sure don't. One is they had to put their son out because they were afraid of him after he come back from Master's Ranch.
And it wasn't just the
Yeah,
kids. It was you. You had to be. I mean, if these kids, like I said, if they were sex offenders or whatever, you were in danger as well. You know what I mean?
exactly. I had one kid. He had a pocket knife, right?
Uh huh.
And I'm like, I thought this was kid for at-risk youth. So this kid had a pocket knife, and we're all sitting at the dinner table, and he's standing up behind me, flicking this knife. I forget what his name was, and flicking this knife. I turned around, like, where did you get that from? Oh, this is my pocket knife. Pastor say if we become seniors or whatever, get a purple shirt, then we can have a pocket knife. I said, well, get from behind me with that.
Mm.
And I started thinking about it. I said, this kid could have slit my throat. Then we went fishing. And when we got back, there was a 5-gallon bucket of fish. And we were like, okay, well, how are we going to clean it? And one of the kids decided, I'm going to go. He went in the house and came back out running with about 5 or 6 big old knives. I got the knives. You should clean them with this, Miss Shelva. Like,
Oh,
oh my Lord! You think y'all just could go in the kitchen and get knives?
oh my God. So they have access to knives now. That's
Yeah,
that's
they at
dangerous.
the time because the kitchen is just yeah, they could go in. Like I said, this child went in and got a knife, got about 5 knives, and then after we finished cleaning the fish, I had to tell them about 15 times to go pick those knives up and put them away. Then I just said forget it because nobody wanted to listen to me because I was undermining everybody and fussing at the kids because I'm like, okay, you need to pick these. They were just laid out in the ground.
Hmm.
One kid had some scissors and just started going to other kids um, to their shoes and stabbing their shoes.
Oh,
So I'm like, why are you doing this? And he's like, oh, then couldn't explain why he's doing it. I told Pastor's brother, about what happened. And so he took the kid out, will show me what you were doing. No, it's my word. So now it's my word against the kid's word?
yeah.
No.
That's just
So
ridiculous.
that's the stuff that I went through.
Oh my
So,
goodness. Uh, how
hopefully,
how how long was your son there?
for a whole year from January 2017 to December, they must be in 2017, January 2018 to 2000, no, January 2017 to December 2017. He was
Okay.
there the whole year. He
Hmm.
came home. No, wait a minute. Trying to think. Yeah, 2017.
Okay.
He
All
was
right.
there, or 18, if I'm not mistaken. One of those 2 years, I can't remember. But he was there a whole year. I was able to visit him, which I did, and took him to Branson, Missouri, brought him back. And I just noticed that he was just really quiet. I was like, wow, he's really changing. My son's really, I didn't know my son was going through emotional distress. And the way David talks to them make them think that he's the father that they never had. I'm that father. And like I told Loyal, I said, I do not want you calling that lady mama. She's not your mama. I'm your mama.
Right.
It's
Right.
just, yeah, 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 yeah.
That's how they.
So
Yeah. They usually
they
do
just
that.
have to be.
That's what they do.
It's like they're grooming kids.
Right.
Mhm.
Grooming them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's my
My
goodness.
son. They were like, well, Shelva, if you come back to work, Laurel can't come. I said, well, why not? Well, he can't live on the premises. I said, well, why not? They never could tell me why. The only way he could get back, live on the premises is if he was part of the program. So I'm like, why would I put him back in the program? So at the end, my son went down about a week before I did, 2 weeks before I did, right?
Uh-huh.
When David sent some boys to come and pick me up, pick up the rest of my things, my son went back with them. So when my son went back with them, he went back with all his tennis shoes, all of his clothes and stuff. And then all of a sudden, my son was like, Mom, you coming? And the deal was I was going down there to register him for school. But when I got there, he hopped in his car and he was like, I'm ready to go home.
Oh.
I'm like, Loyal, I just drove from Texas. I just want to go home. And he's like, and then he started telling me something about he ran AU track. I'm going to be running in a race, and I need to be home for the team, and this and that. So I'm like, this is really crazy to me. So I drive all the way back to Texas, all in 24 hours. And when it was time for us to go, I was like, Loyal, you need to get your things together. He was like, they could just have it. They took his shoes, they took everything that he left behind. The only thing he brought back was his PlayStation. And when I got ready to go, I was like, okay, so we ready to go? He's like, I'm not going. He said, you need to go and see. And lo and behold, I got a chance to get 7 days worth of I can't take it. This is not right. In 7 days, I'm like, I'm out of here. And not one time did I think I am homeless. I gave up my apartment, broke my lease. I have that $10,000 on my credit that I have to pay back because I broke a lease to an apartment. David just lied about everything. And it's like I have it all in black and white. And I could probably show it to him in his face, and he'll swear to God he did not write that. I did not say that.
He'll deny it for sure.
That man is.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I have better things to do, Jason, other than to be trying to conjure up a bunch of malarkey to take this one man down. I don't have to fabricate anything. What I saw was real, and what I felt was real. And when I drove back the whole way back to Texas, I was calling CPS the whole time, and they from the time it took me to get from Texas to from Missouri to Texas, I kept calling them. Phone kept going down, and they didn't do anything about it. One of the state legislators said that she was going to subpoena, I think she said 10 years worth of work that did not get done. She want to see the people that reported this type of stuff.
Right.
They dropped the ball on these kids. Whether they come from a single parent home or mom and dad home, or even if they were CPS, juvenile delinquents, no child deserves to be treated like an animal. Pooping in the barn like an animal because they were not allowed to go back upstairs to use the bathroom. And I'm like, they're like, Miss Shelva, so-and-so pooped in the barn. I said, he did what? You mean to tell me I paid $42,000 a year for my son to poop in the barn like a cow?
Oh. Those text messages that you
have. Then when the kid that got his eye.
Those text messages that you have, did you send them to the legislature?
I didn't send it to the legislator. I shared it with, I think, the person with Kansas City Star.
Okay.
Or Missouri Times or something like that. But you know what? I do need to take those text messages, print and have them reprinted and then sent to the state legislators.
Yes.
That's what I need to do because it's just read it like a book. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'll have somebody make copies for me at the library on tomorrow, and I will send a copy to them. Good idea. Thank you for bringing that up.
They need to see that.
Yeah.
They need to see those. So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And even, like say for instance, I have like on my Facebook page where David was coming on trying to justify himself. And my friends were like, they said that he said that I lost control and I was depressed. My friends were like, sir, we know who you're talking about. And what you're stating is a bunch of hogwash. this person, he told my son, called him and said, you told my mother that if it didn't work out, you were going to help her get back on her feet, come back to Texas. And he told my son that I vandalized the house. My son said he told him that you're lying on my mom, because that my mom would never destroy the house. She would
Right.
never bust holes in the wall. He said, so stop lying on my mom. My son has even told me that, even told David, he called him and told him he needs money, and David sent it to him. And I think he was so good to Loyal like that because he knows Loyal knows more than Loyal is telling me.
Right.
And pitting my son against me, like I'm crazy and I'm just making this up. I told my son, I said, you don't have to tell me everything. I said, but Loyal, I said, what I saw was real. He said, well, Mom, keep fighting it. He
Yeah.
says, I just don't want to have anything to do with him. Do what you feel like you need to do. He said, I'll support you, but I don't want to have anything to do with this. I don't want to testify. I don't want to do anything. So
Well,
what's that telling me? But
I
I appreciate the people that I've met, and I appreciate you giving me this opportunity. Um, and I realize that it's not over until it's complete. And I know that I probably will never get an apology back from David, or he probably don't even feel like he owes me an apology. But the man needs to be taken down.
Oh, you're never going to
Just
get
plain
you're
and
never
simple.
going to get an apology ever. Nope. Might as well
Yeah.
just not even wait for it, because you're not going to get it.
Because it's like, Jason. Yeah, I've never met a person that can know that that they're lying and make it seem like you're the one that's lying. I've never seen that before. And I'm like, this man can make a crazy person, a sane person, think that they really are crazy. And people in town don't like him, like he say, oh, people know about his school. When I went down there, I frequent thrift stores a lot. And I found, within the 7 days I was there, I found a thrift store that I liked, and I would go there every afternoon. And when I told them people who I worked for, they said, oh, the school with the bad kids.
Uh,
They didn't have a good reputation in town. Boys couldn't even go on the stores because they stole. But if you would give the kids what their parent, I'm sending my son keeping $300 on his card, his Walmart card, then he should be able to get whatever he wants.
yeah,
I
definitely.
don't know what they were spending. Yeah, I don't know what they were spending. That's additional to the $2,999.99 I was spending a month.
That's true. But a lot
That's
of people,
that was additional.
a lot of people in those towns, especially the smaller towns, they don't want to get involved with anything. They just want to just live their life and just pretend that nothing's happening. And that's the problem.
Yes, exactly. Until it happens.
Yes.
The kids the teachers at the school just the kids would go to school. I would have one little young man. I was like, baby, you're not going to go to school dressed like this. We're going to find you some. I had neckties that belonged to my deceased father that I brought back with me because kids didn't have neckties.
Hmm.
They would go to church and take all their clothes off, and it'd be all in the van. And I'm like, your mom and dad worked too hard for this type of stuff for you guys to be throwing this brand new shirt on the ground. And let me sell it. And so Matthew was like, we're going to clean it up and we're going to do this. You guys are not doing, these guys, they're not teaching them kids nothing.
No, not at all.
My
And
son told me, he said, Mom, we used to have to take those little fabric sheets that you put in the dryer
yes, yes.
to dry when you dry your clothes. My son said they would cut them up in fours, and each one of those sheets, and they could only use one half of a fourth of a sheet per laundry. And I'm
Oh,
like, that makes sense. I said, Loyal, I was sending you laundry detergent and things like that. Well, Mama, that's what we had to do. And so when I told Miss Teresa what he said, she looked at David like, "Oh shit." I thought it was funny. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
thought they were teaching the kids, how to conserve and stuff like this. But no, this was what they were doing. Not for conserving. Just we need to save the money on some other stuff. Like, say for instance, David. I know I'm talking a lot.
Yeah.
David got. He likes to go to auctions.
Uh-huh.
So he buys things at auctions, and then the kids and Mister what's the other guy's name? I can't remember his name. But how they came down here the second time to get me to move my stuff down. David bought some workout equipment. Uh, so he made it seem on Facebook that they were going to buy all this workout equipment for the boys to get a gym and this and that. So I don't know how much money David paid for that workout equipment, but it was a little or nothing. But that's what he does. He cables. He go to auctions and buy. He had this really nice oak wood handcrafted table that he bought at an auction. What does that help the boys do?
It doesn't.
Are you really teaching them how to use? Yeah, just for everything is his, my this, my house, my this, my that. Yeah.
Well, sorry to say that the
Yep, my
money.
dog.
Sorry to say that the money that you gave him paid for his trip to Disneyland. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're back and forth going to get his dad, flying his dad down, and just like he is just a man. I don't know what happened to their son. I don't know if his son committed suicide. I don't know what happened to his son, but that is the whole reason why he supposedly started Masters Ranch, was because of his son. Something happened to him, so they have like this little garden in front of the school, that's dedicated to their son. And oh my gosh, he tries to make the other boys, I don't know. It's a bunch of lonely kids. A
It's
bunch
hard.
of lonely kids, and
The thing is, a lot of these guys that run these programs are sadists. They take absolute pleasure in hurting kids, hurting people in
yeah.
general.
hmm Like my son was telling me, they take kids behind the barn, but it's consensual if you get a beating. And so my son, I said, have they ever, Jason, if my son ever tell me that man did something to him, there won't be a jailhouse to keep me down. I'm going to
No,
get him. My son, and I think my son knows how I feel about that.
right.
Growing up being molested too, you know what I'm saying? So my son is going to protect me at all costs. He will lie to me. And I do believe he's holding back a lot. But if I ever find
Yeah.
out he did something to my son,
You'll never find his body.
I will be, yes, I'll go and tell him I did it. Sorry, I did this.
You'd be a hero.
I took all his fingernails off. Yes, I took all his fingernails off and I burned them with cigarettes. I did that. But
Right.
my son he said that they beat kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they do. Yeah.
Yep. And so it's like I feel like I'm just like it's caught up in a nightmare sometimes. I don't sleep. And it's like when I say I don't want to do this anymore, I don't want to deal with David anymore. Somebody reaches out to me and goes, Michelle, I would like to talk to you about something. I've met so many people through Messenger
Uh huh.
that has shared their story with me, and I just push it back because I'm like, I don't know if this is too big for me. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, the
It's
best
too
thing for
big. It's like dealing with the mob.
the best thing for them, if they want, I mean, just like Agape did, they came on the podcast and just gave their story, and the attention that Agape is getting now is just it's not good attention. You know what I mean? So
Yes,
maybe it's
exactly,
something to think about.
exactly.
So
hmm Yeah, so I stay in touch with the ladies that I met when I was in Missouri, and they are very uplifting. And they're like, Miss, we need you because we've never had a parent to speak out or an employee to speak out.
Right.
Um, David was like, where could a person make $2,000 in 1 week? Well, I was already making that. You know what I'm saying? $2,000 is not any. That's like having $200 trying to feed my family. The $2,000 for 7 days, I earned that.
Yeah.
And then you promised that. Here I'm telling you, I was homeless for 6 months, scuffling to keep, and a lot of my things that I sent to Master's Ranch, well, I left my things there because I couldn't bring it all back. My washer, dryer, things like that. A lot of my family pictures, they're gone. I was an avid collector of motorcycles. They're gone. All my little motorcycles and my things to hang on the wall. My little Harley Davidsons. Being that David is a Harley Davidson man, I'm sure he has my stuff.
It's probably at his house.
Everything.
Yeah.
You could ride my bike. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
Hmm.
But when a good feeling is when I met the young man the day before I left for Missouri, that the mother went and got him and didn't bring him back. That was a good feeling to know that just a little bit that I put on my website, on my whistleblowers page on Facebook, um, helped somebody get to rescue their child. You know,
Yeah.
and just trying to save people from. If I could start my own school, it would be dynamic and it would change lives. What I saw over there was a place where your kids are just being hovered over there and to make money. That's it. That is it. No didactic groups, and they can lie and have pictures saying that they're with Mr. Doctor So and so. That's a lie.
Hmm.
Unless they did all of that when I was gone, when I left. You don't. Those kids know nothing about behavioral modifications. You're not teaching them how to become uh, citizens in society. You're not teaching them anything other than um, these silly rules, and make the kids think that when people drop off your kid and you see all these other kids standing there in attention, and you're like, wow, that's gonna be my son. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Don't believe the hype.
But like you said
Don't
before,
believe the hype.
a lot of these staff members were friends of David, or and it's also with
Hmm.
the church in general. I mean, if there's really no
Exactly.
qualification, they say, hey,
Exactly. And
uh,
and and, the, and what?
they said that, hey, we need a staff member. Are you qualified? Well, I was an ex heroin addict.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's okay, brother. Come on in. You were saved. Jesus
Oh.
saved you. You're
Uh-huh.
good. You're good. Let's
Yes.
come on in.
Exactly. I'm still on net. This guy, their accountant died, right? And so me and one of the parents was talking. I said, I don't believe Art died. I believe they killed Art. She was like, why did you say? I said, because Art was the man, the money man. Art was the man that wrote the checks.
Okay.
And I feel like Art did not just die. I believe that I think they said Art committed suicide. I gotta get my facts straight. But I'm like, no, they killed Art. I bet you something happened to Art that they did. That man did not just kill. They drove that man crazy. I believe that something happened to him. And like one of the kids told me, Pastor got a gun that'll shoot this guy had. They kicked him out. He had an RV there, and I was like, well, my son could stay in the RV while I work here. So I asked the kids, I said, well, who's staying in there? And they were like, come on, we go over there and look. So we all digging in the RV together. And I said, well, what happened to the dude? Oh, they fired him because he was buying drugs and had drugs, and pastor told him to get off the property immediately. And then they said, but then he had a bunch of chickens and rabbits in that barn. So we walked over there to the barn. And so all these cages and stuff, they said he had over like 300. And Pastor told him that if he didn't come back and get those animals, he'll shoot them down.
Hmm.
And I said, really? He said, oh, yeah, Pastor got a gun that'll shoot them down, shoot every animal in here within 3 minutes. Now, what a kid know about something like that?
Yeah.
I got a on my messenger page where he was looking at some artillery that he wanted to buy with a night vision scope on it. Why do you need that?
You
You know,
don't.
are you David Koresh?
A,
Yeah.
a doomsday
I
prepper,
said, so he
probably.
had a gun. Huh?
A doomsday prepper, probably. Waiting for the apocalypse.
Yes, exactly. Another David Koresh
Yep.
in the making. The Davidians. And I just sit
Yeah.
back and I'm like, wow. So I'm just going to stay, positive and still continue to voice the facts, not my opinion. I have burden of proof, you know, and just keep pushing forward. I may not be able to save a million, but one or two is fine with me. But I would love to stop it in altogether.
Right.
I would love to be able to work for a school that was really into rehabilitation and decreasing the recidivism, not adding to it. My son came home and he was good for like a week, and then the next thing you know, his behaviors had tripled. It was still in my car while I was asleep, and I'm like, why are you doing this? And it's like, and then it was like, I hate you for sending me here. So I'm like, okay, well,
Hmm.
how do I make up for that?
Right.
So it's like all I do is try to make up for that. And I'm
Right.
just trying to be a good mom. And I've always been a good mom. I've never lacked in that area. Um, but I feel very disappointed in the fact that I felt like I could not handle or discipline my son. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Um,
But
yeah, so it's
but
like, I don't
doing
know.
doing what you did, testifying. That's a good beginning there. You're on the road.
Yeah, yeah. And I'll do it again. I'll do it again because Amanda, Barb, like, can you gonna go to the next one? I'm like, I will. I have gone off the grid. I purchased myself an RV, and so just parked my truck. So whenever they tell me they're going wherever they're going, I can get in my truck and go meet them.
Good.
And so that's what I plan on doing. I don't want to get weary. I want my last fight to be able to fight for somebody else, and I've always done that. Uh, put others before me, and this now is a perfect opportunity to put someone before me because they're kids.
Yes.
They don't even know why they make the choices that they make, and they are hoping that an adult can gear them in the right direction, not contaminate what's stagnant already. You know what I mean? Adding
Yes.
more to it. Creating behavioral issues where people come back and you know they're into they become like sadistic. You know what I mean? They go overboard with their goth, with being goth, or some people cut. I have a guy that went. I think it may have been, oh gosh, I can't think of the name of the school, but the guy is now like 28 years old and he's a cutter.
Oh, okay.
Would never was a cutter before. Now he's into cutting, and he has a lot of nightmarish, lifestyle, of that boarding school. I can't think of it. It was in Missouri, as a matter of fact. I think it
Mm.
was more of that military school. I can't remember the name
Okay.
of it.
All right.
Yeah, that's all I got to say about that.
Well, Shelva, thanks for
And
coming on and talking to me about this. This was very informative,
yes, sir. Yeah.
and I wish you a lot of luck in the future with your son. I hope
Yeah,
I hope
thank
he
you so
can.
much.
I
Thank you
hope
so much.
I hope he can find a way to pretty much put this behind him, and you can find a way to put it behind you as well. Like I said, as far as
Yeah.
parents make mistakes. I'm a parent of two. I've made my mistakes as well, and all we can
Mm,
do is say, "Look, I'm sorry. I'm trying to do what's best. I'm trying to fix what I can fix, and move on." And
exactly.
I think that your son needs to take that as gospel and say, "Okay, I believe you." That's all you can do. I
Yeah.
mean, you can only do what you
It.
can do.
Mm, yeah.
You know.
And he sometimes I find him making little comments. I'm like, "Hey, my good morning, warrior."
So
What does that mean?
so
Huh?
he recognizes what you're
He
doing. So
referenced me.
that's a good thing.
Yeah, he recognized, but he says it's so sarcastic, Jason. I'm like, what does that mean? Is that some kind of subliminal message you're trying to give me that I'm
Right.
an awful person? He's like, yeah, how are you today, warrior?
Right. But I'll tell you one thing though. I'll tell you one thing though. When those
So,
places get shut down, you're gonna go back to your son and go, "See,
yeah.
I did what I could. And look what happened. We got him shut down."
Exactly.
Who's the
I
wa-
did what I said I was going to do. Yes.
who's the warrior?
You're
Right?
going to
Who's
ride
the
with me
warrior?
the whole way, right, Jason? We're going to ride. We're going to ride
Yep. I think one of these days
together.
I'll probably try and make it to Missouri one of these days because I'm pretty close. I'm pretty close to Missouri.
Yeah. 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 I said
So,
we're going to ride together on this one, aren't we?
oh yes, all the way to the end. That's right.
That's right. Okay. Well,
All
you
right.
enjoy the rest of your day.
Well,
I have a puppy that is really going bananas.
okay. Well, stay on the line.
I,
Stay on the line for just 1 second, Shelva, so I can talk to you real quick. Let
okay.
me end the podcast. Okay. I want to
Okay.
thank everybody for watching.
Okay.
I want to thank Shelva for being on. This has been great. If you want to support the podcast, please subscribe to the channel. And for the Hammer Podcast, we will talk to you soon. You have a great day, and we'll see you in the next podcast.